Supporting capstone multilingual writers. Tips for revising and proofreading. Expect to spend time on revision and proofreading. Remember that language and writing skills are acquired over time. It's also important to remember that daily English and academic English are two distinct skill sets. You can be fluent and comfortable in daily English and still struggle with the shift to academic English. Academic English isn't anybody's first language. It takes all writers time and practice to improve. In addition, writing a capstone study is an iterative process. Chapters of the capstone are not written all at once, and they may not be written in order. The chapters may also be rewritten once other information is added in other places. Multiple drafts are expected and required in the capstone writing process, and revision is an essential part of this process. Therefore, expect to spend time on revision and proofreading and build the time needed for this into your writing timeline. In fact, I would even argue that sometimes revision may be the most time consuming part of the process. Like writing, revision is also iterative. It occurs at different stages of the writing process, and it will continue to happen again and again. For example, once the proposal is finalized, it needs to be revised again after the study is completed. Understanding the importance and the time commitment of revision in your own writing process will lead to an overall better end product. I encourage you to bookmark the self-editing pages on the Form and Style website for more ideas on how to work on revision and proofreading. You may also find the video on following faculty expectations helpful to gain a better understanding of what is expected. Search for this short video on the Form and Style website. Let's take a closer look at some self-revision strategies. We know that self-revision at the capstone stage of the writing process becomes even more of a challenge because of the overall length of the document, the time it takes to complete the study, and the fact that you may not write the manuscript in the order in which it is presented. In addition, as a multilingual writer, you may find that you have to spend more time in this step than some of your peers. To help with this, you want to develop some self-revision strategies. Like I mentioned on the previous slide, be sure to plan for revision time. Remember that revision is an essential and time-consuming part of the writing process. Revision at the capstone level is more of an iterative process. You should expect to go over the same passages more than once to self-edit for different things. Second, make a revision plan and prioritize how to make the revisions. You cannot do everything at once, especially in such a long document. Decide on a handful of things to focus on in each round revision, moving from bigger picture to smaller picture, and address one thing at a time, not everything at once. Third, be aware of your own strengths and weaknesses as a writer. If you often have difficulty with your introductions, keep this in mind as you write so that you can focus on this in an earlier draft. If you often have difficulty with academic word choice, keep this in mind so that you can use a thesaurus or other strategies to improve. Fourth, be sure to address degree program requirements. Follow program-specific guidance documents, such as the premise, prospectus, guidebooks, and checklists that you can find on the Office of Research and Doctoral Studies website. Use these to guide the development of your ideas as well as your revisions. Fifth, follow instructions and address faculty feedback. I again recommend the short video on following faculty expectations for some specific tips on this. You can find this video on the Form and Style website. Sixth, check that your writing reflects your intended meaning. You could try reading your writing out loud to yourself or to someone else. Alternatively, have someone read your writing out loud to you. This will give you a chance to hear the words outside of your own head and give you the opportunity to listen for how the ideas and the words flow together and or where they become confusing. The last bullet point I've included here in the slide is to try reverse outlining. Look for the SMART guide on reverse outlining and using the meal plan to revise, which can be found in the Form and Style website. Writers often create an outline before they write, but with reverse outlining, you create an outline from what you have already written to check that what's on the page matches your intentions. So it's a way to revise your writing by working backwards. Beyond revising for bigger picture concerns, you also want to be sure to revise for sentence level grammar. As a multilingual writer, this again may be a time consuming but necessary part of the process. One way to develop grammatical accuracy is to read actively and analyze sentence level grammar in published academic documents. I recommend reading published Walden doctoral studies and dissertations, which you can find through the Walden Library, and you can analyze some of the sentence level grammar you see there. Self awareness is the key to self editing, and knowing where to find the answers to sentence level grammatical questions is a large part of this. Being aware of common sentence level grammatical issues can be helpful so that you can identify trends of error in your own writing. This slide includes some of the most common types of sentence level grammatical errors that can impede understanding for the reader. Watch for errors in sentence structures, including simple, compound, and complex sentences. As a subset of this, look for run on sentences and sentence fragments, issues with parallel sentence structure, and issues with relative, restrictive, and non restrictive clauses. This list of common errors also includes punctuation, especially commas and semicolons, word choice, verb tense and verb forms, word forms, subject verb agreement and noun endings, pronouns, articles, prepositions, and spelling. Sometimes just giving a name to a type of error can raise your awareness of it and allow you to better revise. I previously mentioned that knowing where to find the answers to sentence level grammatical questions is key to self awareness and to self revision. Therefore, I suggest using your APA manual for this. You can look up concepts in the index. On the Form and Style website, you may find the grammar mechanics pages, the smart guides, and the 4 Capstone Multilingual Writers page helpful. I've listed the URLs for these websites here. Using a corpus is another great way to revise for sentence level grammar. It's also one of my personal favorite strategies. A corpus is a large electronic collection of texts, and it can be something as general as the internet or something more specific, such as Google Scholar or the Corpus of Contemporary American English. You can use a corpus to search for grammatical structures, such as sentence construction, verb tenses, subject verb agreement, count versus non count nouns, article usage, preposition usage, and so on. For more on this, see the video on using a corpus and the Smart Guide on using a corpus. Both can be found on the Form and Style website. Another way to revise for sentence level grammar is to use a grammar revision journal. This can help you develop self awareness of frequent errors. Basically, this is a way to track your own common errors, which can be helpful because grammar errors often follow patterns. In a grammar revision journal, you can keep track of the type of error, an example of the error, the revision or correction, and the grammatical rule to follow. On the Form and Style website, you can find a short video on using a grammar revision journal, and there is also a smart guide on this revision strategy. Again, the overall goal is to become more self aware of your writing strengths and weaknesses because self awareness leads to effective self editing. Computer software can also be used to revise for sentence level grammar. In Microsoft Word, you can find spelling and grammar settings under the Review tab. A lot of writers also find the Grammarly software program to be helpful. I've included a URL here for more on this program. While these computer software tools can be useful, keep in mind that they also may misidentify or not catch errors. The software can provide relevant tips and recommendations, but are only helpful if the writer understands how to apply the feedback. In the previous slides, we looked at revision. So now let's move to proofreading. Sometimes, after all your hard work, the last thing you want to do is sit down and spend more time proofreading. Remember, though, that this is also an essential part of the writing process and one that you don't want to skip in such a large and important document like the capstone. On this slide, I give some proofreading tips. The idea here is not that you have to use them all, but that you try and find some that work best for you. One idea is to proofread aloud. Read the document aloud or listen to the draft read aloud by someone else. This can slow you down so that you can hear the difference between what you meant to write and what you actually wrote. Another idea is to make the document look different on the screen or on the page. Maybe you highlight or bold one sentence at a time, allowing you to focus just on that one idea. You might also try printing out a copy of your writing to proofread, rather than trying to do it on the computer screen. Another idea is to place a ruler or a blank sheet of paper under each line as you read it. This will give your eyes a more manageable amount of text to read and focus on. The next idea is to proofread backwards. Begin at the end and work back through the document paragraph by paragraph or even line by line. This will force you to look at the surface elements rather than the meaning of the manuscript. The next bullet is to proofread at the time of day when you are most alert to spotting errors. Are you a morning person? Try proofreading then. A night owl? Try then. Like I mentioned with revision, you can and should use grammar and spell checkers on your computer. Use them, but do so carefully and not as an alternative to doing your own spell checking. Computer spell checkers often make errors. They might suggest a word that isn't what you want at all, and they don't know the difference between there, 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 their, and there, they apostrophe re, for example. The last tip here is to try to take a break between writing and proofreading. Set the document aside for the night or a day or a week or even 20 minutes. This allows you to look back at the writing again with fresh eyes. Okay, I hope you will be able to apply some of the revision and proofreading tips in this video to your own capstone study. Happy writing, revising, and proofreading.